and they've got a ball slightly below their feet and the wind's coming off the right and there's a consequence to what they do, all that goes out the window. So by learning to develop skill and having an awareness of where your club is actually striking the ground, then you can simply replicate that anywhere out on the golf course, okay? Because it's interchangeable between the lie. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Kerrod here today on the golf course at the Forest of Arden with special guest Chris Ryan. Chris, thanks for coming along, my man.
Pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Chris is one of the all-time greatest YouTube golf coaches out there. He's got over 70 million views on his channel, so make sure you go and check him out. But today, Chris and myself, we're going to be working with Joe to improve his golf game, covering all aspects of his swing, elevating his performance without giving him a single technical process-orientated thought. You certainly don't want to miss out on this one. Let's get stuck in. How often does that sort of thing happen?
Quite common.
Pretty frustrating?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, have you done any work with Joe on his short game?
Not huge amounts. We've done a little bit of longer stuff, a little bit more kind of 20, 30 yards, but what he does there is quite similar to what he does for those length of shots.
Yeah.
So as we were talking about, you know, it's just about how and where he strikes the ground, or if he strikes the ground.
Yeah, yeah. And would you hit any duff shots or fat shots where the club hits too far behind?
Not too much, really.
Mainly the thin ones.
Normally, I tend not even to hit the ground. Just kind of my common bad shot, really.
Yeah. And like we were having dinner last night, right? And we were kind of talking about how a lot of players, and this follows on and echoes what we were discussing in regards to the full swing. A lot of players will then spend too long, let's say they hit a thin shot, they'll watch a video on their short game, and they'll be spending too much time over-analysing exactly where they're setting up, trying to be perfect in their whole golf swing motion. They'll start looking at the plane of the golf club going back and through. Where at the end of the day, for a shot like this, simply by having some awareness of where the club is striking the ground, for someone like yourself who's just going out playing with a couple of mates and you just don't want to do that,
yeah,
right, is a great way to improve the overall outcome of your shots, right? Rather than getting onto the second or third hole, you haven't warmed up with any chip shots, and then all of a sudden you're out there and you're thinking about the flex of your right wrist, when at the end you just need to get the ball onto the green so it's not thinning over the back, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for Joe, it's about, you know, we've spoken about this a little bit before, but, you know, I don't want him to be thinking about, you know, here's a setup, the ball's in the middle of my stance and I'm trying to get the club to land right in the middle of my stance, because ultimately I want him to be able to put the ball back and hit one low and then push the ball up and hit one high and then stand further away.
Yeah.
So for Joe, it's all about trying to get the club to land on the ground where he chooses.
Correct.
As opposed to somewhere, and it'll always be the same, because it's not the same. He's going to be faced with a lot of different shots.
Yeah.
And if we can give him the ability to say, you know, for all those shots, he can land the club in the right place, that's a pretty powerful tool to give him, I think.
And this is a great conversation around the variability of golf. Is we see a lot of range rats. They might be able to demonstrate something very nicely on the chipping green and the bunker, but as soon as you throw them out into the wilderness and they've got a ball slightly below their feet and the wind's coming off the right and there's a consequence to what they do, all that goes out the window. So by learning to develop skill and having an awareness of where your club is actually striking the ground, then you can simply replicate that anywhere out on the golf course, okay? Because it's interchangeable between the lie. So I'm going to jump in here, and you just jump over here for me, Ben.
Sure.
Now, do you have a practice swing when you're out there and you're going to do these shots?
Maybe one or two, yeah. Just
Okay.
to try and feel kind of rhythm and stuff.
Yeah, so you're feeling rhythm. Anything else you focus on there?
Just kind of visualising my shots a little bit, but it's not really kind of like a dead shot of exactly what I mean, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you ever focus on where the club is hitting the ground in your practice swing?
It's not a thought of I need to be hitting the ground here or anything.
Okay,
so.
great. And we see a lot of players don't want to hit the ground in their practice swing because they don't want to scuff up the grass, they don't want to get their club dirty, they think they're taking too much time. But just as you would in a performance for, I don't know, when you're playing your instrument or singing, you want to have a dress rehearsal. You don't just rock up with no practice whatsoever and expect to perform brilliantly. So in golf, it's no different. At the end of the day, if we can make somewhat reasonable contact and get this golf club hitting the ground around about where the ball would be, well, then we're going to get some loft on it and at least eradicate the thin shot where the ball ends up over the back of the green. So what I want you to do, and we'll get you to come in here in a minute after I've demonstrated, and you're going to do this out on the course, is instead of worrying about so much about the rhythm, tempo, and that sort of thing, and visualizing the shot, for you at the moment, I feel like you would be a much happier golfer and you would get better results if you focus purely on what I'm about to show you. So what you're going to do is you're going to imagine this golf ball is in this location, okay? So it's like a ghost ball in front of you. And if you were going to hit a pitch shot or a chip shot or anything around the greens, this is the sort of contact that we'd be looking for. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't necessarily want a big digging and divot as the golf club comes into the ground like that, because that would result in a duff shot, but actually just getting a sensation and feeling of what it's like for the golf club to be gliding through the grass, okay? Because at the moment, what happens when you're hitting those thin shots over the back of the green is the golf club's actually not making contact with the turf at all, or very rarely. It's just coming in and hitting the equator of the golf ball and then scooting along the ground. So simply by standing here and just having a few small little rehearsal swings, and sure, you're going to have a relative length of your swing to the distance that you want to hit it, but actually just looking down and feeling the contact of the ground in your wrists, and then simply just walking forward and recreating the same sensation, you'll be so surprised how well you can actually execute it from there, okay? So what would get you to do is we'll get you to come in here, mate. Any comment you'd add to that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would encourage Joe to do, and what we have spoke about, is almost, I call it feel the ground, see the shot. So because you're going to be faced with undulations, like you were saying, ball below, ball above, I would get Joe to walk in and do exactly what you've done there. You know, really just the first few practice swings is just almost where is the ground relative to me? Is it further away from me? Is it closer to me? Is it on an awkward stance? So once he's got that and he's sort of felt the ground, then I'd say to him, well, now you can have a few practice swings where you're actually taking in the shot a little bit more, and sort of, so I call it kind of feel the ground and then see the shot. But I think it's so important to be able to know, you know, I'm here, where's the ground, and how am I going to line my club up with the ground? And that's so important.
Okay, bud. So I want you to pretend the golf ball's here, so you're about a club head and a half in between, and then I just want you to have a few practice swings just clipping the ground for me. Perfect. Now, if you have a look at where they were, you'll notice how the club hit all the way back here. Now, what do you think would happen if you were actually doing that with the golf ball there?
I'm guessing that would back the shot.
Yeah, not always, but really, if you think about it, if we can try and get the golf club hitting the ground in approximately where it's lying, okay? So what I want you to do is set up again, right? Set up a little bit more relaxed in your arms, okay? Good. Now, as you swing back and through, I want you to focus very intently on where this club's coming in. I want to try and hit the ground right there in line, okay? Okay. So we're not going to take a big divot, still just a bruising, but instead of taking the bruising of the grass back here, we're just going to move it forward a little bit, okay? Okay. Off you go. Perfect. Wonderful. Okay, so stop there for me. Now I want you to walk into the golf ball, right? Focus and recreate the exact same feeling. Okay, close. A little bit thin there, right? Let's do that once more. Okay. Go through the same process. Focus intently on where you want the club to strike. We'll move a little bit further forward, yep. Okay, so that one there, redo that again. Was back here, wasn't it? And that's what we do notice the difference between recreational golfers and professionals is the attention to detail when they're doing the drills, right? So with something like this, it's too easy to gloss it over and go, I've kind of done the action without really achieving the specific outcome. And for these sort of swings here, Joe, what I want you to do is after you've had the practice swing, kind of reset and go again, rather than going back and forth very quickly, because that actually is just too much tension in your body. It's going to be difficult to kind of recreate the motion we're looking for, okay? Yeah, sure. So let's set in here. Relax those arms. Focus intently where the club's going to hit the ground. Okay, where'd that one hit? Too far back? Yeah. So let's focus a little bit more forward. Okay, that was better, but we could have a little bit more of a bruising. That was pretty good, yeah? Yeah. Great, so let's step into the ball. And I want you to focus on the same feel. Look at that.
Lovely. It's better than yours, Kerrod.
Please go in. So as you can see, with a simple change in the attention of what you're giving down on the ground. You're trying to focus a little bit more on where the club's striking.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you simply go into the golf ball, and then you get the results that you're looking for without getting too much caught up in the technique.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Perfect.
Short game's about where and how, where you hit the ground and how you hit the ground. You know, we've done where. You know, good golfers can change how.
Yeah.
You know, is it leading edge, is it trailing edge, is it sole? But it's such an important thing. And especially I find when golfers get in that semi-rough,
Yeah.
their practice swings, they'll often just clip the top of the grass, and you still want to be feeling the turf, the bottom. It's really getting that club down. And as you demonstrated there, the contact with the ground can be a lot firmer than you believe it could be. It should be.
Yeah. Mate, awesome job.